Welcome to Oklahoma Gardening. Today I've got a couple of trees that will fit into several different landscapes. We head to Mustang, Oklahoma to see how their community garden has partnered with the local library. And finally, Jessica Riggin is grilling up some vegetables. Underwriting assistance for our program is provided by the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry, helping to keep Oklahoma green and growing.
So if you're looking for an easy, low-maintenance perennial, have two different types of flowers on one plant. Capsaicinoids that gives the pepper its heat. Today I want to introduce you to a couple of trees that go by the common name hornbeam, and in fact there are two that do really well here in Oklahoma and are in fact Oklahoma proven plants. Now the first one is the American hornbeam, which is Carpinus caroliniana, and it's actually a slow growing shorter tree, so it's only going to get about 20 to 35 feet tall and often has more of a globular form to it. Now behind me we have the European hornbeam, which is known as Carpinus betulus, and in fact it gets a little bit taller, about 40 to 60 feet tall, and you can see it has a bit more of a pyramidal form to it. It does not require any pruning if you don't want to prune it. However, it can actually handle a fair bit of pruning because over in Europe they often will prune these trees down into smaller shrubs and create dense hedges that way. One of the things about the hornbeam that they're most noted for is their bark. You can see if you look at the texture that's on the trunks of the trees, they have kind of this muscly wood, and that's actually another common name for them is muscle wood. You might remember a few years ago when we were on campus looking at columnar trees, there is a cultivar of this European hornbeam that is known as fastigiatus. And that is actually a columnar form, and so it's going to be very tight and narrow and upright, which is a nice addition to add in some of those smaller areas to kind of cover up larger, taller buildings as we have done here on campus. Now, if these three trees still don't fit in your landscape, I've got one more option for you to add hornbeam into your garden. If you've ever visited the Botanic Garden here at OSU, you probably have walked along this main path that cuts through the garden. And on the east side of this path, we often like to plant a lot of different perennials. Now, you might remember that we used to plant a pennisetum called First Night that was a very dark ornamental grass that would get to be about 4 to 5 feet tall and just create a nice division between the pathway and this garden behind us here. Well, about 4 years ago, we got kind of tired of planting that annual every year, and so we looked at another option. And today I want to talk about this other hornbeam that we have here. This is a dwarf columnar hornbeam. So it is a European hornbeam. However, you can see that it is a cultivar that's going to stay relatively small and compact. Unlike the columnar hornbeams that we have seen on campus, this one is going to remain at about a 10-foot height. Now, when we planted these about 4 years ago, they were only about 18 to 24 inches tall. So you can see they've more than quadrupled in that time period since we initially planted them. As most of them are about 6 feet in height now, we do have some variability in the 16 that we have planted here on the east side. Now, these dwarf hornbeams are actually hardy from zones 5 to 8. So here in Oklahoma, we're in that ideal range. They're going to remain about 2 to 3 feet in width, and the nice thing about these is they do not require any pruning at all. In fact, we have not done anything. Because they have this dense, compact habit, however, they actually serve as a nice shelter for birds and other wildlife that might seek some shelter in there. Now you can see they have a really kind of rough, heavily veined leaf And they're also going to have some yellow fall foliage. So they're very low maintenance, tough plant, and a perfect addition for that small backyard garden in order to sort of kind of create a screen. Now you can see ours are planted about on 5-foot centers, so we're gonna have a little bit of space between them, but they kind of create these column effect as you walk down this walkway here. So regardless of whether you have a lot of room or not much room at all, there's likely a hornbeam that you can add into your landscape. Today we are here at the City of Mustang at the Mustang Town Center, and joining me is Susan Dobbins, who is a Canadian County Master Gardener, but you spend a lot of your time right here at the Wild Horse Garden and Market. Susan, tell me a little bit about what all you have going on.
Well, we've been here in Mustang in the Wild Horse Park since about 2015, and this is our latest project.
This is fabulous.
It's a joint collaboration really between the library, the Parks and Rec Department, Canadian County Master Gardeners, and all of the Wild Horse Gardens volunteers.
And I know you have a really nice community garden here that's been here for several years, but this is a lovely addition. Tell me about how do you utilize this greenhouse?
We utilize it, we just started it in March.
Okay.
So we've got it all kitted out, and so we're still learning as we go, but we are using it to grow plants for the community garden. One of our big expenses has been buying plants. And so this year we were able to grow a lot of our seedlings here in the garden, and everybody learned something at the same time.
Yeah, I see you got some of your transplants in there. So are you saving some of the seeds from year to year that way to do that?
We do. We grow a lot of tomatoes, but we have two varieties that really do well for us. One is Snow White, which is a little tiny sweet yellow tomato.
Okay.
And the other is Tommy Toes, which is a red salad tomato. And they're both hard to find in nurseries, but we save the seed from year to year. And in the past, we've struggled to find places to propagate them for us. But this year, we were able to start them all in our community garden.
Do it yourself. Excellent. Well, I know this community garden is not just only providing food for the community, but you guys provide a lot of education here. Tell us a little bit about the programming you have going on.
We do. It's always been really important to us to provide programming. For the last 2 years, we've worked with the Parks and Recreation Department. In the summertime, they have a kids' day camp. Mm-hmm. And we've had the kids out here one morning a week during the camp, and we really found the kids, we do a little lesson and then we just get out in the garden, and they want to see what's going on that day in the garden. But a lot of our programming this last year has been in service of the greenhouse. Julie's commitment to get us the greenhouse was that we would teach classes for how to grow your own food. Mm-hmm. And I've done some. The Master Gardeners have done some, and Courtney Keck, our Canadian County Horticulture educator, has done quite a few of them. And we've paid off the greenhouse. We've done a year's worth of programming already, but we're not stopping. We want to continue to have people. This garden is as much about teaching people as it is feeding people.
Right, and you're reaching all ages, from the kids camp to the older citizens that maybe need that fresh vegetables and stuff like that.
We are. And
the health of getting out and doing it too, right? So,
well, and that's where the city's Parks and Rec Department has always helped us in the past, because most of the full-time volunteers are older, mm-hmm. and we can't do a lot of the heavy stuff. So we've never had an issue. The city's Parks and Rec will get people out here to do things for us and use their equipment.
I know it's just a thriving place, especially once those tomatoes and the produce really start coming on. And I even see you've got a pollinator garden over there. Was that a project?
That was a project of several Girl Scout troops here in Mustang. Okay. It's a sustaining project, mm-hmm. so they needed to do something that would go from year to year. So the beds were built by 7, 8-year-old girls, and installed with a little help from their parents and from the master gardeners. And they've been keeping it up now for, I think it's 4 years.
Okay. Well, I know you've got some classroom spaces out here to do that programming, and you mentioned Julie and Nick were big partners in this, so I'm going to go catch up with them if you don't mind.
That would be great.
Thank you. Joining me is Julie Slupe, who's with the Mustang Public Library. And Julie, you're kind of the one that got this all started, right? Tell me a little bit about that.
Right. Well, I've been writing grants for a while with the Oklahoma Department of Libraries and the Institute of Museum and Library Services. And it has to do with healthy living. And so I just tried to think of something I could do for the residents of Mustang, and working with Susan, I came up with the idea to get a greenhouse for our garden.
It's fantastic because literally right outside the library you have the community garden,
Right.
which has been a success for many years now.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about what in the grant you kind of proposed for this greenhouse space.
So what I wanted to do is bring awareness to the garden for our group that gardens here, to let them know that if they spend any time in the garden, they can have free food. That was my biggest idea.
Okay, so allowing other people to come in and get different stuff that maybe they couldn't afford otherwise.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about, are you doing programming with the library still going on with the greenhouse?
Yes, definitely. We've been working with the OSU OKC Extension Office and with our community gardeners here, offering programs for years. So it's not something new, it's just something different.
Well, it sounds like this greenhouse has been a big success. So what else is on the horizon?
Well, we always have exercise classes that we offer for free through Parks and Recreation. And then we were thinking about starting a seed garden.
Okay.
And we also do healthy cooking. So all that's to come.
So really tying everything together.
Yes.
Well, how can people find more information if they're interested in this program?
They can go to the City of Mustang's website, or they can stop by the library.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Joining us next is Nick Bailey, who is with the City of Mustang. And Nick, tell us a little bit about why it was so important for the city to also support this project.
Well, it's just a great thing for our community to be able to have and to participate in, and to use that system in order to give our people more things that they can do here in this town.
Yeah, and I know this is kind of the central hub of everything in Mustang here. You've got so much activity and resources here. You're not only feeding the minds, but also literally feeding them, right?
Yes, exactly, very much so. They can come and volunteer and help out, and then they're able to also take some of that product that they've grown and worked so hard for.
And how are you seeing the citizens responding to it?
Oh, they love it. It's there's always somebody out there walking around looking at it. Even when the garden club's not here, we just drive by one day and there'll be 1 or 2 little families out there just walking around looking at the garden.
So can you tell us a little bit about specifically how the city sort of helped with this effort?
Yeah, so Julie came to us with the idea of getting the greenhouse, and we quickly jumped in as a way to also add another element to our garden. So we quickly put in the concrete slab and got the power ran to it, and then also got water and all the other amenities that are needed for it.
So a lot of those city utilities that are necessary.
Yes.
And do I hear there's some progress maybe that there might be a building coming soon?
Yes, hopefully soon. Hopefully soon there'll be a nice big market building coming at some point.
All right, well that's excellent. I know this is a growing facility and we appreciate your effort with all of this.
You bet. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Often when we think about adding color into our garden. We typically think of herbaceous plants, but what better way to add color into your garden than also by getting a little shade in the hot summertime. So today we are featuring a plant that gets a lot of attention mid-June because people will start asking, what is that yellow flowering tree that is out in the landscape? This is called golden rain tree, and it's actually a very nice tree. You can see because of these flowers that it produces. These panicles will get to be about a foot long and just produce a numerous amount of yellow flowers all over it. In fact, when the winds start blowing and as those flowers start to decline, they will fall, often creating a golden carpet underneath that tree, and it sort of has that golden rain effect when you're underneath it during the wind also. So it sort of just has them falling down on the ground around you. Now, because it is a smaller tree, you can see it gets to be about 30 to 40 feet tall. It's well suited for urban environments, not only because of the aesthetic value, but also because it is very drought tolerant, and it's also tolerant of air pollutions, as well as high pH and also clay soil. So that kind of makes it an ideal tree that we often see in urban environments. Now, in addition to these flowers, later on in the season, these flowers will actually transition to sort of this, they develop these papery, lantern-like fruiting seed pods that you can see here. Some of them are still kind of hanging on from last year. And these seed pods actually start out kind of a lime green, but then they'll fade to more of this sort of brown dried color, again, creating a little more of aesthetic interest year round. So the leaves are pinnately compound. You can see here you've got your rachis down the center here, kind of that midrib, and then you've got leaflets that come off of it. So this is one whole leaf that is on here. It is a deciduous tree, and it's hardy from zones 5 to 9. Now, it is native originally to Japan, Korea, and also China, which means there's relatively few pest problems here in the United States, but it was introduced back in the 1700s, so it's not a new introduction. It's been here for quite a while. Now, I have to say, even though it's utilized a lot in urban environments, we got to give a word of caution because it can reseed. In fact, the Oklahoma Invasive Plant Council has it on their watch list, especially down in southeastern Oklahoma. But it has been known to also escape cultivation in other areas of the state as well. And it's believed to be spread sort of by birds and also water. So while there should be some caution about planting this tree, you will often find the golden rain tree in the urban landscape.
Hi everybody, it is a beautiful day outside and we are grilling up some vegetables today. It's going to be a grilled vegetable platter that serves up kind of like a salad. And to get started, I've already washed all of my vegetables. You can use whatever vegetables you like. What you have growing in your garden, whatever your favorites are, that's mine. Just use what you have. I've got some zucchini, some yellow squash, eggplant. I have some of these little mini sweet peppers. If you have regular bell peppers, they would work just the same. And I've got some mushrooms and some green onions. We're gonna start by prepping up the mini peppers. If you were using a whole bell pepper, I would say cut it into strips about 1/2 inch wide. With our mini sweet peppers, I'm just gonna take the top off and then cut each one in half lengthwise. And I'm gonna leave them just like that. I'm just going to take the root end off of these green onions and leave them mostly whole. So just cut off as much as you think you need to cut off and discard those ends, and we're just gonna leave the rest just like that. Now we will move on to our eggplant, our squash, and our zucchini. I don't think eggplant is a very popular vegetable in Oklahoma, which is a shame because it's delicious. And so if you've never really worked with eggplant before, you can leave the skin on, and that's what I'm gonna do today. But the skin can be a little tough, and so if you don't prefer that, you definitely can peel this. We are just gonna take the top off and take the bottom off. And then I am going to start slicing it lengthwise, and I want each piece to be about a 1/2 inch thick. And once you've got little planks of eggplant, we're gonna take each plank and kind of cut it in another 1/2 inch so you have little 1/2 inch rectangles. Then we are going to cut our zucchini and our yellow squash in exactly the same way. Definitely want to be careful with this zucchini and the squash. They're round, so they might roll, and you don't want to cut yourself if it rolls. So be sure that you're holding it firmly and cutting straight down with your fingers out of the way. So like I said, you could peel your eggplant if you want to, but eggplant has such a beautiful color, and there are a lot of nutrients just underneath the skin of the eggplant and all of your vegetables with skin. And so I would say any vegetable that you can eat with the peel on or the skin on, I would leave it on. You're gonna get a much better bang for your buck as far as the nutrients go. So now that I have all of my vegetables cut up, I am just going to drizzle a little bit of olive oil on them and then season them with a little salt and pepper blend. And I'll give them a toss, and then I'm gonna put them on the grill. With some of these vegetables, they could easily fall through your grill grates depending on how your grill grate is shaped. And so you have several options here. You could cut these vegetables in a different shape and skewer them and grill them that way. But I found these little disposable grilling racks that you can use for vegetables. It's got a smaller hole on it so your vegetables aren't gonna fall through. You can also buy grill baskets for vegetables and fish. That would work really well. But I like this because it's disposable. It'll be easy cleanup, and I don't have to find anywhere to store it. So I'm gonna set that right down on top of my grill. I also have a flat top on my grill, and so I'm gonna be using both sides, kind of see how they perform differently. And you could do this inside with a grill pan on your stove if you'd like. I'm gonna put my bell peppers and mushrooms on the flat top side, and then I'm gonna put the squash and the eggplant on the grill side, and I'm gonna wait on these green onions because they are gonna cook pretty fast, so we'll put them on later. While your vegetables are cooking, you can make up a really quick dressing for this, and we're just gonna start with about 2 tablespoons of olive oil and about the same amount of balsamic vinegar. And then I'm gonna chop up some fresh basil to put in this. If you don't have fresh basil, you could use dried basil. We'll throw in a little bit of Italian parsley. Then I'm gonna do a salt and pepper blend and a little bit of garlic powder. If you have fresh garlic growing in your garden, you could definitely use that. We'll give it a little stir, and then when our vegetables are ready, we'll just drizzle this over the top. Once your vegetables are done, they may have a nice char on them, and that's kind of what you're going for. Arrange your long pieces, your squash and zucchini and eggplant, kind of pretty across the bottom of your plate. And then we'll put our peppers right on top of that. I've got my zucchini, squash, and eggplant all lengthwise across the plate. I put my bell peppers on one side, and I'm just gonna put my mushrooms along the other side of the plate. I just think it looks pretty that way. But it definitely wouldn't hurt anything if it was all mixed up. Last, you're gonna take your green onions off and just set them over the top, wherever you think looks nice. And that is our grilled vegetable platter. And we can just drizzle this olive oil and balsamic vinegar dressing that we made right over the top. We have a lot of herbs in here, so you may need a little help from your fork. So there we have it, our grilled vegetable platter. This is a really fun option for a side dish when you are doing a backyard barbecue, or if you are going somewhere else for a picnic. You can do this up and it should travel pretty well. If that doesn't get them to eat their vegetables, I don't know what will. I hope you'll try it.
There are a lot of great horticulture activities this time of year. Be sure and consider some of these events in the weeks ahead. Join us next week right here on Oklahoma Gardening as we're talking about summer fruits. To find out more information about show topics as well as recipes, videos, articles, fact sheets, and other resources, including a directory of local extension offices, be sure to visit our website at oklahomagardening.okstate.edu. Join in on Facebook and Instagram. You can find this entire show and other recent shows as well as individual segments on our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. Tune in to our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel to watch segments from previous hosts. Oklahoma Gardening is produced by the Oklahoma Cooperative Extension Service as part of the Division of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources at Oklahoma State University. The Botanic Garden at OSU is home to our studio gardens, and we encourage you to come visit this beautiful Stillwater gem. We would like to thank our generous underwriter, the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry. Additional support is also provided by Greenleaf Nursery and the Garden Debut Plants, the Oklahoma Horticulture Society, the Tulsa Garden Club, and the Tulsa Garden Center.